A Love Beyond the Prairie by Oliver Hale. The dust swirled in lazy patterns around Clara Bennett's boots as she stepped out of the general store, her arms full of fabric bolts and canned goods. The summer sun bore down on her little corner of Kansas, painting the prairie in hues of gold and brown. Clara squinted toward the horizon where the grasses danced in the breeze, dreaming of a day when her life would feel as free as those untamed fields. At 25, Clara was the eldest daughter of the Bennetts. A family struggling to make ends meet after her father's injury left him unable to work their small farm. Clara had taken on the mantle of responsibility with a stubborn determination, but deep down she yearned for something more, something she couldn't name. As she adjusted her grip on the goods, a shadow fell across her. She looked up to find a man on horseback, his hat pulled low over his brow. His coat was dust-covered, his boots worn, and yet there was an air of quiet confidence about him. He tipped his hat, revealing striking green eyes that seemed to hold a world of secrets. "Hello?" he said, his voice deep and smooth. "Need a hand with those?" Clara hesitated. It wasn't often that strangers rode through their town, especially ones who seemed as well-traveled as this man. "Thank you, but I can manage." The man dismounted with an easy grace, his movements fluid despite his rugged appearance. "I insist," he said, taking the bundles from her arms before she could protest further. "The name's Lucas Walker." "Clara Bennett," she replied, studying him as he followed her to the wagon. He didn't seem like the other men in town, who were often rough and unpolished. There was something refined about him, though he carried the wear of someone who had seen more than his share of hardship. As they loaded the wagon, Clara's curiosity got the better of her. "What brings you to Clearwater?" Lucas paused, glancing toward the horizon, looking for work, and maybe a place to settle down. His answer stirred something in Clara, a longing she didn't quite understand. "Well, work's hard to come by these days, but you might try the Blackstone Ranch. They're always looking for extra hands." Lucas nodded. "I appreciate the tip, Miss Bennett." As he rode off toward the ranch, Clara found herself watching until he disappeared from view. She shook her head, scolding herself for daydreaming about a man she'd just met. There was no room for fanciful notions in her life, not when there were crops to tend and a family to care for. Over the weeks that followed, Lucas became a fixture in Clearwater. He took up work at the Blackstone Ranch, proving himself to be a hard worker and a man of his word. His reputation spread quickly, and it wasn't long before he found himself welcomed into the tight-knit community. Clara often crossed paths with Lucas at the general store or church socials. Their conversations, though brief, grew more familiar. He had a way of making her laugh with his dry wit, and she found herself looking forward to their encounters more than she cared to admit. One evening, as Clara was mending a torn shirt by the fire, a knock came at the door. She opened it to find Lucas standing there, hat in hand. "Even in, Miss Bennett?" he said. "I was just passing by and thought I'd see if your father needed help with anything." Clara's heart gave a small, unexpected flutter. "That's very kind of you, Mr. Walker. But we've managed so far." "I'm sure you have," Lucas replied with a smile. "But there's no harm in lending a hand, is there?" She stepped aside, allowing him in. Over the next few hours, Lucas fixed a broken fence post and repaired the barn door, all the while chatting with Clara and her father. By the time he left, the house felt lighter, as though his presence had swept away some of the lingering gloom. As the summer waned, Clara and Lucas's friendship deepened, yet Clara couldn't shake the feeling that Lucas was holding something back. He was kind and attentive, but there was a guardedness in his eyes, a shadow that hinted at a past he wasn't ready to share. One afternoon, while they were walking along the creek that bordered her family's farm, Clara decided to confront him. "Lucas," she began, her voice hesitant, "why did you really come to Clearwater?" He stopped, his expression unreadable. For a moment she thought he might deflect the question, but then he sighed and turned to face her. "I came here to start over," he said quietly. "I've made mistakes, Clara, lost people I cared about. I thought if I could find a place like this, maybe I could find some peace." Clara searched his face, her heart aching at the vulnerability she saw there. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said softly. "But you should know, everyone deserves a second chance." Lucas's eyes met hers, and for the first time, the walls he'd built around himself seemed to crumble. "Thank you, Clara," he murmured. "You don't know how much that means to me." As autumn arrived, the bond between Clara and Lucas blossomed into something neither of them could deny. He became a regular presence at the Bennett farm, helping with the harvest and sharing meals with the family. Clara's father, once skeptical, grew to respect Lucas, and even hinted at his approval of the young man's attentions toward his daughter. One crisp October evening, Lucas took Clara for a walk under the starlit sky. They strolled in companionable silence until they reached a hill overlooking the prairie. Lucas stopped and turned to her, his expression earnest. "Clara," he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion, "I never thought I'd find someone like you. Someone who sees the good in me even when I can't see it myself. I don't have much to offer, but I'd be honored if you'd let me build a life with you." Clara's breath caught, tears springing to her eyes. She placed a hand on his cheek, her voice trembling. "Lucas, you've already given me more than I ever dreamed of. Yes, I'll be by your side wherever life takes us." As their lips met in a gentle kiss, the prairie wind whispered around them, carrying their promises into the night. In the months that followed, Clara and Lucas worked together to build a future. With the help of the community, they expanded the Bennett farm and even opened a small mercantile, combining their strengths to support the town they had come to love. Their journey wasn't without challenges, but they faced each obstacle with unwavering determination and the knowledge that they were stronger together. Through love and resilience, they found not only a home in Clearwater but also a place in each other's hearts. And as they stood on their porch one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Clara knew that her life had become as free and beautiful as the prairie she had always admired.